Welcome to Whispered Secrets, where every mystery has a voice. Please subscribe, like, and share. Today, we break down one of the most dangerous rivalries in modern history, the United States and Iran. For decades of tension, sanctions, proxy wars, nuclear fears, direct military strikes. This conflict did not begin yesterday. It started in 1979 with a revolution that changed the Middle East forever. Since then, leadership decisions in Washington and Tehran have shaped a cycle of pressure, retaliation, and power struggles. Now, Israel stands at the center of it. Missile exchanges, military alliances, threats of nuclear escalation, oil markets on edge, global powers watching closely. Is this about security, regional dominance, or control and authority over a nation that refused Western influence? In this video, you will see how the U.S.-Iran conflict began, why diplomacy failed, how Israel became directly involved, what recent events signal, how this could affect the world economy and global stability. This is not only a regional issue, it is a global flashpoint. Let's begin. How the U.S.-Iran rift began in 1979. In 1979, Iran overthrew the U.S.-backed Shah, replacing his rule with an Islamic republic under Ayatollah Khomeini. Iran shifted from pro-West to anti-U.S. leadership. Council on Foreign Relations. Later that year, Iranian students seized a U.S. embassy in Tehran, taking 52 Americans hostage for 444 days. The crisis ended in 1981 with the Algiers Accords, but diplomatic ties were broken. The U.S. imposed sanctions and froze Iranian assets. This set the pattern of distrust, punishment, and economic pressure that shaped decades of hostilities. The hostage crisis hardened both governments. Iran grew suspicious of U.S. intentions. The U.S. viewed Iran as a destabilizing actor. Cold War to nuclear tensions. Through the 1980s, the U.S. often sided with Iraq in the Iran-Iraq War, deepening Iranian distrust of American power. PBS. As Iran expanded influence in the region through armed groups like Hezbollah and others, the U.S. labeled Iran a state sponsor of terrorism. In the 2000s and 2010s, concerns grew over Iran's nuclear activities, prompting international sanctions and negotiations. Leadership role. Iran's government prioritized its regional influence and military strength. The U.S. leveraged its global authority to enforce sanctions and isolate Iran. The nuclear deal and breakdown. In 2015, Iran and world powers signed the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, limiting Iran's nuclear program for sanctions relief. In 2018, the U.S. withdrew and reimposed sanctions. This ended diplomatic progress and pushed Iran to resume nuclear enrichment. Less trust, more tension. Hardliners in Tehran gained strength, viewing diplomacy as weakness. Recent escalation, 2024 to 2026. Iran and its allied groups carried out direct attacks on Israel in 2024. The conflict expanded into direct military actions. Council on Foreign Relations. In 2025, the U.S. struck Iranian nuclear sites as part of an effort to block Iran's nuclear capability. In February 2026, the U.S. and Israel launched large military operations deep inside Iran, aiming to degrade missiles and military leadership. Iran's supreme leader was killed in one of these strikes. Escalation intensified with air and naval battles, missile attacks, and fighting spreading across the region. The Guardian. Current leadership effect. U.S. leadership took aggressive military action to prevent Iran gaining nuclear weapons. Iranian leadership responded with missile strikes against U.S. and Israeli targets. Israel sees Iran's influence in weapons programs as an existential threat. Why the conflict grew. History of mistrust. 1979 revolution. Hostage crisis. Sanctions. Broken agreements. Power struggle. U.S. wants to prevent Iran as a regional military threat. Nuclear fears. Iran's enrichment program alarmed Western states. Israel security. Iran's backing of armed groups and missiles makes Israel feel vulnerable. Leadership pushes. Hardline leaders on all sides benefit from confrontation. How it affects the world. Global energy markets. Disruption in the Persian Gulf raises oil prices and slows trade. AP News. Wider wars. Conflict risks drawing other nations, raising global military tensions. Trade and supply chains. Shipping routes like the Strait of Hormuz have been disrupted, affecting global trade and fuel costs. Alliances. U.S. and Israeli alliance deepens. Other countries reposition based on security and economic interests. In conclusion, the U.S.-Iran conflict started with revolution and mistrust nearly 50 years ago. Diplomatic breakdowns, sanctions, nuclear fears, and regional rivalries shaped decades of tension. Recent military actions show how leadership choices, power struggles, and alliances now pull in other nations and risk a broader crisis. 40 years of tension brought us here. Revolution, sanctions, nuclear fears, proxy wars, direct confrontation. The conflict between the United States and Iran is not random. It is rooted in leadership decisions, power struggles, and competing visions for the Middle East. Israel remains deeply involved. The United States stands firm behind its ally. Iran pushes back against what it sees as foreign control and regional pressure. The stakes are high. Oil markets, global security, military alliances, the risk of wider war. What happens next depends on strategy, restraint, and leadership on all sides. If you found this analysis helpful, subscribe for more geopolitical breakdowns. Share your thoughts in the comments. Like this video to support the channel. Stay informed. Stay aware. See you in the next video.